we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine, your message taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. From big events to breakout rooms with flair, we've got the tools and we're ready to share. Guest experts drop in, bringing gold each time, with insights and tricks to help you climb. Can't make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we glow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. And make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Now take the spotlight, the stage is yours. Bring your message through virtual doors. Each week we gather, and now you know you're not alone, so let it flow. Thank you for joining us, now go and shine. Share what you've learned, your voice, your time. With Lord Zoom Live, your power will grow. It's time to build your own show.
Hello and welcome to another Lord Zoom Live. For the production guys, we have a question. When you're creating your fantastic arena events or your big corporate events, I have one little question. Are you going to send it out live? Like we are now via YouTube or maybe Zoom? Or I understand there's some other platforms, but let's not be in that team. Well, I have a feeling the argument should be between revenue and reach. Even if you're hiring a Super Bowl stadium, there is still always going to be a maximum number of people you can fit in the room. The question is therefore, well, what if we could get more people in? And if you can't get any more in, the question is, how can we get more people to see this, to hear this, to experience this? Do we need to complain to the phone company who's trying to send me messages to help me do my webinar? Do we copy Taylor Swift and have an Eros tour around the world in 365 days? Or do we take the COVID way? Because let's face it, when we were all stopped from seeing each other in COVID. A lot of us looked at other apps and said, "Ooh, look here. Wow, I can connect to people from my own room. Look, there's hundreds of them here. And they're all as bored as me in COVID. I'll connect to them. I'll help Zoom's share price soar." Yep, other webinar platforms were available, but somehow just didn't catch the wave. There are a lot of people now who have been educated, persuaded, introduced to this virtual world, which, let's be frank, it's been around. Webinars online have been around for a heck of a long time. Only really held back by bandwidth constraints. And thank God we got bandwidth better before COVID struck. So we come back to the big question again, revenue or reach? If you have a fantastic studio, stadium, or similar event, would it benefit from being run as a virtual event at the same time? You know, there's a lot to be said for taking the nettle, grasping it solidly, and dedicating yourself to building hybrid events. Because hybrid events are more complicated than just doing an online event. They're more complicated than doing just a stadium virtual or just building it in a studio with some cameras, maybe to a big screen. These things are maybe 3 times as complicated when you put the two together, because you've got all that interaction and all that management of all those different environments. You want to make people see what's on stage look good. You want people to see what comes on the big screens look good. You want people to see what comes onto their device look good. So how do we connect that together? How do we make sure that our reach and our revenue work together so that we don't destroy one at the cost of another? I've got a few friends in the band space. Got a friend of mine who I follow. Well, she's a friend to me. I'm not sure. She calls me Johnny, so I must be a friend to her at some level. But she doesn't like going on YouTube because she feels that her revenue will lose out if she reaches into the virtual world and doesn't have people turning up to her stadiums, which are, you know, they're 200, 500 seaters. So she's not enormous, but that's not small either. And the revenue from those gigs that she does all around the UK and into Europe pays her way and has done for the last 10 years that I've known her. She takes the view that the reach would not replace the revenue. But for a lot of people, it will. And don't think that all you have is live streaming like we are. You can have a paid online event in Zoom. And therefore, it can be a revenue earner for you. For people who can't physically make your stadium, what are you going to give to them that's going to allow them to pay you money and be both reach and revenue? That's the challenge. And it works at all levels. Mike is with us. He's a distributor. So he doesn't deal with customers so much. He's looking in the distribution world to dealers, but he still has the same challenge of reach and revenue. Will he get more sales if he does a virtual event? Will he get more sales if he drags all these distributors, dealers, and etc. into a room and does a presentation to directly? Or is there an argument that you have an event for those that people that want to physically see you, but you do something for those that can't? And Canada's a big country, so it's not like everybody can just drop in at a moment's notice. Do you do something for your dealers who are online who can't get to the physical events because there's a reach and revenue opportunity for them as well? Well, I don't know the answer to these questions, so I suppose I better ask somebody who does know the answers to these questions. What's your idea of reach and revenue regarding in-person events and your online events, Mike?
Hello, John. Glad to be with everyone this week. So when it comes to, as John mentions, we are a large distributor here in Canada, and we do have our dealers from coast to coast to coast. So John is correct. So the chances of me flying in or getting dealers to fly in to an event that would not be, I could not do just a day for them to fly. That would not make any sense to them. So if I'm planning on a day type of event, back in the day, that would be what we would call a roadshow. So such roadshow would be equivalent of we either are doing A, going to the dealer directly and having a show for them at their facility, or B, we would rent a room, possibly the size that John mentioned of the musician, between 100 to 300 person seating. But again, in our situation, it would be a banquet hall that would turn into a mini trade show. Now, that being said, a road show in Canada basically would be that I would have to hit each major capital city in Canada. So I am flying into, at minimum, 10 different capital cities in Canada. And yet those venues themselves, that means I have to have 10 banquet halls, fly all the representatives for all our brands to each 10 different venue, so that my dealers can, if depending on where they are based on the capital city, could actually then, it doesn't hurt them as much expense wise for them to travel to see us for a day. I'm asking a lot from our dealers doing that, because not only does that mean some of our dealers that are very mom and pop type stores have to close down or leave the store unattended, aka with staff that they may or may not want to trust in a day-to-day basis, or, so that would be our dealers at our smaller end. But the larger dealers in the area, of course, they would have no problem because they have the abundance in staff. So they would have no problem if we were talking about a specific brand that was in from one of their specific departments, then they would just usually send the department head of that store. But that's a larger conglomerate type store that we're talking about here. That would be one of our dealers. So you can see how the logistics, just for me to make sure that I'm flying in the brand's products to each venue, setting them up, getting them working, making sure that, again, refreshments, additional expenses. I'm paying expenses for, for my staff to come. I'm paying expenses for the venues. I'm paying expenses for, you're hearing the expense word, which is getting into what John is talking about, revenue. So am I eating at my revenue? Yes. I officially ate at my revenue before I made any revenue. It's called expenses. So now I haven't made any revenue yet, but I'm traveling to 10 locations. So I have 10 flights booked for all my staff. And, we're not flying in the morning and flying out that night. So I have to now pay for additional I have to feed them. I have to lodge them. I have to fly them in. And I have to now, okay, so that's three. Now, three more things is now I've got to deal with the venue, deal with the brands, and make sure that everything is working before the show starts. Now, here's the other problem too, is that can I show up in the morning and be ready by 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning to have them come into the venue? Depending on how big my crew is, depending on my expenses, is my official answer. But in a lean situation, no, I'm not going to get a room set up in 2 hours once I have access to that room at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning to actually have them be able to come at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning and spend 4 to 5 hours with me. I'm asking a lot again. So am I making revenue at this point? No. Am I having expenses? Absolutely. A lot of expenses. Absolutely. Is this the way the game used to be in the distribution world? 100%. But this is where technology is coming to play of, okay, now, so again, and this is John making the comment to me too, of do I do it just in venue or do I do it in venue and or hybrid? So now do I just broadcast to dealers for that province while I'm in the province? So I basically go, okay, so now I'm paying extra expenses because now I have to make sure I have internet and the capabilities of now, if I'm running seminars or as such to make that day that more entertaining / educational for the dealers when they show up, to make, for them to take their time out of their day, their busy day, to actually come visit me physically. And that's where this all comes very, very important. And this has changed a lot for our industry in the last 5 years. Very, very much so. So revenue, so I haven't made any revenue yet, but you're hearing that I'm spending a lot of money. So that's where John was talking about revenue versus reward, even in that regard. Right now, I haven't made any rewards yet because I haven't had any deals done yet because I haven't opened up the show yet. But I've spent all this money. So this is where the Zoom Events platform comes into play as a perfect example, is that now I can fire up, if I want to, a per province virtual trade show for the most part. And what the biggest problem that I do hear from our dealers is that I'll want to come to the show, but I want to be able to touch and feel and hear it, depending on what the product is. And that's usually the biggest problem that brands and distribution companies have, is that, you can give me the nice marketing video in virtually, which is great, but is that really what it sounds like? Are you tainting by using the marketing videos? As we know, we don't taint marketing videos, do we, out there? McDonald's, I'm speaking to you directly, showing that perfect burger that is never perfect when you actually buy it. Okay. So, yeah, Johnny, go ahead.
Well, I've got another variation. I'm going to quote you another friend of mine. Again, I call him a friend because I've been on these webinars and he's called me out. He's called me out. Maybe because I call myself Lord Zoom and I stick out like a sore thumb. I don't know, but he has called me out. Billie Jean Shaw introduces another version of this risk and reward, revenue and reward and reach. As we've added reward now, we'll use that. Thank you, Mike, for adding that to the script. We have the what I call the FOMO factor. Now, Billie Jean Shaw does big, in his mind, let's say, because your production guy is going to say, oh, this is quite, we can do this every day of the week. It's not hard. But he has a stage and he has a big video screen behind him. And he's got a few mixers and he's got a few cameras. And he will stand on his virtual stage well, it's not a virtual. Well, it's a real stage. It's a real stage. There's nothing virtual about it at all. It's virtual to those watching, but it's a real stage. He will stand in front of his real stage and he has a little whiteboard that he can flip onto, and he's got a little techie in the background. In fact, I think he's got 3 techies in the background who can switch the cameras around, and he does webinars and he talks a bit and he has some B-roll video footage that he throws in and now and again, and he does a presentation and he will try and sell you a really quite expensive package as a marketing guy. But the reason I use him as an example is because, Mike, you can attend his event. He has, I think it's 30 really, really top of the range luxury chairs, lounges even, that people can pay, or sometimes he gives them when you buy something, but people can pay to be in those seats, to fly into his studio, be in those seats, be a VIP, be there when he produces the show. Also, quite often, those VIPs will be referred to, even seen on camera. So the majority of the audience is watching online, is watching it live, but a certain select group of people get to be there, get to physically be there. And they get a better experience, but they also get seen. And the FOMO starts working then for the people that aren't there. It breaks down the barrier of face-to-face and together. He can use that little audience to get instant feedback, so the people watching online feel more connected. I could think of 3 or 4 things he could do to make it better. I bet you guys, if you watched it, would probably think of 10 to 20 things he could do better. But he has got the mechanism working there. He's not now a guy in his bedroom talking to a camera, which is what I'm actually doing because it's warmer down here than my studio upstairs. But never mind. We won't tell anybody about the green screen. We'll keep quiet about that. And he has a connection. But you see, I've done it already to a degree because I've got Mike with me. So I'm not a one-man band. I'm a 2-man band. Oh, we're an international band. We're each side of the Atlantic. And don't tempt me, Mike. I might get the piano out for one of these one day. There is an audience of one. It doesn't matter. We also, in this setup, thanks to a generous donation by Zoom, I'm still working out how to fill it, but we have a virtual 1,000-seat audience here that we could put in together. It's going to be hard work to find 1,000 people to turn up to these events, but we have the facilities to do that. Notwithstanding the fact that we are live streaming to YouTube, and we've got some people who tend to pop in and watch that as well. So you don't have to go big. You could have your best top tier dealers, Mike, maybe, who get to press the flesh. Maybe you've hinted that the ones that spend the most money with you get invites to these events, get to meet the other people, get to meet the manufacturers face to face, and everybody else who's trying to compete can be part of the event, but they get to do it at arm's length online. What do you think of that idea?
And again, it really depends on the budget of the actual dealer for the most part. If they join us, in person, or if I was doing it as a hybrid situation, then of course that is extra cost for me, no cost from our dealers. at that particular point. It's just a cost of their time at that particular point for them to watch us on their phone, or, heaven forbid, them actually have a little studio, which I do suggest to all my dealers to actually have set up, where they can actually, or at least a boardroom of some sort that they can actually go into, so they can actually watch our training videos and watch our different content that we have for them all the time. So and you're right, John, it really depends on the skill level and the budget level on from our dealers. But what we have noticed over, as I was mentioning earlier, what we have noticed over the last 5 years, especially since COVID, and actually this started to happen just before COVID as well, was that our dealers would, we would set something up with our dealers. We would show up. We would show off this specific brand, because we couldn't do all of our brands in one sitting, because that would just be overwhelming. So we would bring in specifically one brand to specific dealers that we know that would be able to target that brand to their customer base. And when we would show up, of course, it would take some time. I would need about a good half hour in one of their rooms to set up the equipment slash, demo products, demo brand, not demo brand, but the actual brand's demo products. There we go. And once we set that up, we would say, okay, yeah, we're ready for you. But again, depending on the size of the actual physical store, they might be the only ones there. And then all of a sudden somebody walks in as a customer. Of course, we don't want to take them away from that, but that also delays us then.
Okay.
So now, not only did I now spend a half hour setting up, I'm ready for the dealer. And then we ran into the scenario of the dealer says to us, okay, yeah, Mike, hold on. Yeah, a customer just walked in. I've got to deal with them. Goodbye. That's your money, but again, it ended up being that so our expenses, no matter if we're there for 5 minutes or 5 hours, our expenses are still happening. But what ended up happening a lot of time with us too, was that we would try to book 2 to 3 dealers a day and be able to travel between each one. So we're traveling half an hour, set up half an hour, talk to them for at least hopefully 1 to 2 hours. And this is the ideal situation. Tear down a half hour, drive again another half hour, repeat, rinse and repeat, and rinse and repeat a third time. And that would be making it worth our time and expenses to be able to do that and hit 3 large dealers in one day, depending on where we are in a metropolitan area.
Oh my.
But again, that's assuming.
I'm having flashbacks.
That's right. And John said, yeah. And John will tell you why he's having flashbacks momentarily. But then you'll have the scenario of, okay, that's assuming everything works properly. That's assuming that the dealer doesn't get pulled away for an hour because the guy came in and wants to spend $10,000, $20,000 with that dealer at that particular point. And of course, we're doing. So explain the flashbacks, John.
On the bright side, I had a very nice car. A very, very nice car. And it was good I had a very nice car, because I used to hang out in that car for an average of 6 hours a day to have 1 to 2 hours of meetings traveling around the country. And my meetings were quite technical. And therefore they were quite draining. It was very much we think there's a lead here. Go and see if we can make the technology work. So it was a real battle. But I remember traveling all those hours. I would never be able to make the business case for reach and reward if I had to do that today. I used to get good sides software deals. Did very well out of them. But I'm not sure I could charge as much today. And 20 years later, I don't think I could get through the traffic as quickly either. So it would be a much harder job to do today to cover the whole country for one product. Whereas if I have my first level of interaction with my audience by shows online, I can still go and see the top range customers. I can still do the top range presentations, but all the middle ranking conversations I can have online, all the middle ranking sales I can close just in a webinar. This may seem, broadcast buddies, a little bit outside your area, but it's not, because your potential marketplace has grown so big now, you probably are unaware of half the opportunities you have. And this is the time to get involved in it for a very simple reason. It started happening already. This is not a blue ocean concept. Wow, let's go and try it. This is happening already. And if it's happening already, it's just going to gradually start filtering down. So if you have the ability to produce medium quality shows, what I mean by that is you're not just trying to take the highest level of everything all the time, but if you can do the smaller shows, so you can think of the 5,000 seater to go back to the 1,000 seater and speak to customers with that sort of reach or that sort of audience, and then look at the reach and reward and return. I'm glad we got it to a triangle by the end. Thank you, Mike. We have the question then of where in those triangle do your potential customers sit? Are they looking for more reach? In which case, can you add some sort of live event onto the system? Of course, you can record the event and then take snippets and drip that out to social media, or you can give the event content to them and they can drip it out to social media. You can have a virtual only event and a physical only event. But because of the FOMO and the prestige and frankly the time, because remember, never mind just about you, as Mike said, it's the time of the customer as well that's important. So having that event done at one time is saving them time as well. You don't want them coming to the webinar and then feeling they have to come and see you. They can't double their time. They focus then in on that time. And that is an opportunity for you to then say to a particular customer who may be doing big events. They may be doing 1 or 2 big events a year. You can ask them the question. If we did a slightly smaller event on a more regular basis, would you be able to reach a new audience that won't come to the main event? Would you be able to get more reach for your money and therefore potentially drive more customers into your sales process, your sales funnel? Would it be advantageous? We all know that if you run a small event on a regular way through the year, it's easier for you as a supplier to cost it because it's a regular event. It's easier for you to actually staff it and run it because it's a regular event. It's actually a lot safer, easier, less risk if you're running something on a regular basis. I don't look after that many events for other people now. That was a business decision to help people run their events, not run them for them. But I have a couple of customers who historically I've always stayed with, and I will do, because they allow me to test technology in their events. I have one supplier who has 6 different groups that she looks after. The easiest one is the one that has the same venue every single year. We know what the venue is. Not only do you know what the venue is, the room that we hold the event in is always the same. Now, they may upgrade their tech. They may get a bigger screen as they had before, or they got to a point where they ended up having 2 screens. So they may subtly change the tech. But I know the room. I know what the audio profile of the room is like. I know what the physical size of the room is like. I know what the lighting issues are like. I know what the noise issues are like. And so I'm quite happy to go back to the event on a regular basis, knowing exactly what I need to take with me, knowing how long I've got to set up, how the event runs, and I can feel secure in knowing that I can give a competitive price to her and to them, because I know what I'm going into, and I don't have to bring lots of backup equipment because I know what's happening there. And that gives them an efficient price and service. It gives me a secure service that I'm giving, makes it worthwhile having the equipment to support that. And I think, Mike, that's the big benefit of when you go from these once a year, got to throw everything at it events, and you go down to the slightly smaller but more manageable and more easy to set up type events where the risk goes down, so the reward and the revenue gets better. We got another R in. Isn't that wonderful? No, I can't say wonderful with an R. Never mind. But that brings it down to a level of events which you could run more easily, but you would still need the professional equipment. Otherwise, you'd just be another dog and pony show, as my mum would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's what we used to call it when we used to go to each dealer individually, was we were doing the quote unquote dog and pony show all the time. So as far as doing small events physically, we opted to not do as many just because of logistics. Again, John, in the UK where John is geographically, for him to get from the north and south, it's not as bad as it is in Canada. For me to stay within the same province, for me to go to the south end, from the south end to the north end of the province, I need to drive 24 hours straight. I haven't got to the venue yet. I haven't done anything with the dealers yet. So I'm guaranteed on a, hour flight, give or take. And that's, of course, meaning if I'm on an hour flight, that means I'm flying in equipment and I'm flying in the brands and et cetera, like I was talking about before. So doing as much in person, as I was mentioning before too, the dealers have basically told us, if you're going to do it big, but don't do it that often. Because I ain't got time to pay for it that many times. I haven't got time to go to things, and it would actually be better off if you distributors, and this is them being bold with all of us distributors in Canada, going back to the way it used to be in Canada, which was similar to what our friends in the States have, which would be equivalent to an NAB or a NAM type show in Canada, where they would not only get just come see us, which they love us. That's not their fault, or that's not their problem, is that to warrant them to just come to see us, money-wise, expense-wise, doesn't make any sense. So that's why we would need to, again, and Canada is contemplating doing this again. We all have to be, we're all, as distributors in Canada, we're all friendly, but we're still competitive. So again, when it comes to that end of the business, we're still contemplating, does it still warrant, because we're watching what's happening in the States and the diminishing and the numbers declining of those shows that have been around for over 100 years, and you know what show I'm talking about if you know when I meant that comment about over 100 years, has been steadily declining and less representation from the brands, and our brands currently have not been in a lot of the American shows that we currently distribute. So there is a bit of a flux, or a bit of a, shall we call it, a pivot to, as John's mentioning, doing small virtual often events versus $100,000, $200,000 expenditure of 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4, if we're lucky, shows. But again, that amount of money times 4 is what I would need to budget to physically do these type of shows. So when people actually, and John, you and I've heard this all the time, when they actually go, oh, events platform is so expensive. Oh, no, it's not.
That brings us to the last part of this presentation, which is why would all these little guys running around with their consumer grade cameras, their PTZs that can sort of control, although to be honest, most of their PTZs have really just been set up for boardroom use. Apple try and persuade them that the iPhone is the warrior tool of choice when you're wandering around collecting video content. Even Sony will try and tell you, all the vloggers, that they've got a $1,500, $2,000, maybe they can upgrade them to the $3,000 camera. Oh, and if you want to connect them to systems, then you can use things like the Stream Deck. There are lots of $1,000 devices that allow us to take those HDMI signals and bring them into, well, they've used HDMI, so you know their budgets, don't you, straight away, but they've used HDMI into a system like Zoom. And I'm hoping you're thinking about those cameras that you're using, which are often 10 times, certainly 5 to 10 times the price of what these prosumer people are using. And I expect 10 times to 20 times the price when you talk about the mixers and all the other equipment that you can put in your little broadcast units. And the fact that you don't use the word HDMI, you call it SDI because it's better. You don't really talk about 1080p, you talk about 4K. There's a big difference in quality between what they can do and what you can do. And Zoom knows it, because Zoom has announced interfaces to allow us to now run a 1080 60 FPS input into Zoom. They've talked about adding MXL connectivity, this new interconnectivity that everybody's going to have in the cloud for all their equipment. Zoom is joining in there as well. So Zoom knows that the quality level which the average user is going to use, even if they're a corporate user with their own fancy boardroom setup, there is a quality difference, a discernible quality difference between what they can do with their out-the-box kit and what you can do with your custom kit. And again, some of those organizations are now taking advantage of that technology. And that means that their competitors are seeing what they're doing. And maybe their shareholders are seeing what the competitors are doing and are encouraging them to upgrade their events, to bring their events to a better level. So if they are only going to do one big event a year, let's bring in a team to do it, because we don't have the equipment here, we don't have the staff here, we don't have the knowledge here to produce a big show. So let's bring in a team and do the show properly. And then they'll get to the point of thinking, well, if we're going to do that once a year show, maybe we could do more regular shows at another level, so we can bring up the quality of our presentations. I think I know that this is a market that's growing. I don't need to think. I've seen it. I've seen it in the questions that come in the Zoom community, the questions that come in the Zoom Developers Hub, the chats we have between the super champions and the Zoom champions and the Zoom dealers and the Zoomies themselves, that there is a big move this year towards raising quality. Yeah, everybody talks about AI. They always talk about AI. But of course, AI does offer an interesting challenge, because if you can produce AI generated quality code to build your videos at that lower level, then to compete with that, you've got to do a bit better. You can't be, and I'd love to demonstrate this, but my camera's a bit too good and my computer's a bit too good. But you can see if I wave my hands around, I get a little bit green around the edges because I'm using a software tool. I'm just using Zoom's built-in green screen tool. I'm better than the person whose hands disappear, but this is, you're going to criticize it, and you are right to do so. This is a webcam experience. It might be a quality webcam experience, but it's still a webcam experience. And if I don't keep up the quality and the interest in my presentations, I could easily replace myself with a fancy looking talking AI. So if you want to, as a customer of yours, compete, they need to make sure that those events that they do are professional enough to look better than what somebody can knock out with an AI tool. Otherwise, they're going to become irrelevant. If they have a event and they then decide they're going to chop it up for B-roll and chop it up for putting on social media, and it doesn't look good, they will be buried by those AI bot versions. And that's why they need your help. That's why they need to go to the next level. That's why they need to create better quality looking content. Because if they don't, there's plenty of people out there who can. And I'm old enough, I'm too old. I'm old enough to remember when somebody at IBM thought that we only needed a dozen computers to run the whole world. And then about a year later, I had a PC of my own. And I don't think I've even bored Mike with this story, so I'm going to now. My father was a financial consultant, and he went to his biggest customer in Croydon, which is a large, almost a city in its own, on the edge of the southern London. And they were showing him their new computer system, which was by then running the payroll for most of the big corporates in that area. And there were some big, and there still are, some big corporates in that area. And this computer was literally, as they say, the size of a very large room. In fact, this one was more like the size of two decent sized rooms. My dad reckoned it would have taken up the whole of his downstairs of his lovely house to fit this computer. And they were proudly saying about this computer and how the pension scheme that he'd generated for them had helped them finance it, and everything was going really well. And my father got so carried away, he said, My son's into computers now. He's just bought his first computer and he's so into computers, he's been upgrading it already. He now has a 48K computer. It was only half an hour later my father found out that the big room computer that they had installed was only 16K. So all his lovely pension scheme had bought a computer with a third of the memory that his son had bought for $500 2 or 3 weeks before. Technology moves on. But you've got to keep up with it. If you don't keep up with it, you get left behind. So AI is not going to change the world. It's just going to move the world on a bit. And you need to move on a bit with it. And this means that it's not just TV stations that need broadcast quality cameras. The big corporates do. Anyone that's doing a big production does. Anyone that's done a medium production needs to think about using some of that technology. So for you, dear broadcast buddies, I think the future is really bright. Mike's probably hoping it's bright too, because he can sell more stuff as well. Mike, would you like to close the comments?
Sure. And again, John's been 100% right on when it comes to dealing with, this is where everything is now starting to trickle down. John was holding up the A10 Mini unit that he was showing you, not the A10 Mini Pro, but it's the A10 Mini from Blackmagic. That's upstairs. See, and there's a reason it's upstairs for John too, by the way. But you have to stay tuned to another episode to find out. But when it comes to, the different equipment and such, there's HDMI over SDI, as John has talked about. There is the difference of, HDMI, SDI, and then of course now we're going into more network capabilities. And of course, John brought up MXL, and of course there's the infamous NDI and also Dante, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And many of you production people will know these catchwords. And if you haven't used this equipment, you've either been intrigued to use these type of equipment that have this technology, or you're already using this technology, and some of you are already certified, depending on the different technology that you have. We all know and we all understand that. But did you know you can bring a lot of that technology to Zoom? That's important, because you can. Zoom is ready for it. All you have to do is make sure that the equipment that you're using for Zoom is also ready for it. So if I take Dante as a quick example, you have to make sure that you have Dante capabilities in your PC. And now you can bring in Dante AV, which is the audio and video. Yes, I said video for Dante. If you don't know about that too, that's John talking about keeping up with the different technologies, because now they offer video as Dante as well. So if you're doing audio and video over Dante, all you need to do now is make sure that PC, in this case, or Mac, in another case, that you're running Zoom Workplace app on, can see the Dante feeds that you're sending to it. So now you are getting the equivalent Dante feeds that you are feeding within that local venue. You can now bring that Dante audio and video into Zoom. And now, as John mentioned, as of within the last week, John, I believe that's correct, right? Now we're going to be very, very soon. It was announced, but it'll be coming to Zoom very, very soon, 1080p 60. So now, if you're already familiar, as I'm bringing up the example of Dante, Dante has that capabilities right now, because that technology is already built into Dante. So you could easily bring in Dante AV into Zoom and actually get the full benefits of the full 60 frames then. But you, of course, it is an add-on functionality that you have to get from Zoom. But I digress a little bit in that regards, but when it comes to the actual technology, yes. So it is a trickle down effect. So there are cameras 10, 20 years ago that a lot of the prosumers, if not consumers, are now starting to utilize. And again, it's just that as technology gets cheaper to make and gets better for the broadcasters that we're talking to here today, where you guys will go out easily with a 4K 60 over the shoulder type camera that you guys are putting on mega tripods, that is not totally out of the reach of somebody that's on Zoom right now doing stuff, if you really, really think about it. So keep that in mind, that Zoom is just an environment. It's a different mechanism of getting that broadcast out. And that's the way that broadcast professionals should think about it. If you've been in the television world, you know already that you need a truck, and then that truck needs to beam it out. Well, you don't need a truck anymore, as many of you may already know, and you're able to actually set it up near your front of house, right beside the front of house, that now you can actually do video within the venue. There's not much difference to get that video out of the venue. So it's just depending on the mechanism. And of course, Zoom is one of the best ones out there, especially if you want to be able to bring in live content back to that local room. But that's another topic for another day.
Thank you, Mike. That is all we have for Lord Zoom Live this Friday for you broadcast buddies. Thank you very much for watching, or if you're on the catch up on YouTube, thank you very much. Please comment, share. You can, if you want to, join us in the audience. Some people are turning up now and again, so you're welcome to do that as well. Watch it live on YouTube or watch it recorded. I don't mind, as long as you watch it, as long as you feel that it's useful. I will feel loved, Mike will feel loved, and we will all build this wonderful world together. But for today, thank you for your time, and goodbye.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Don't forget to, as the YouTubers will say, like and subscribe. Until next week.
Every week we open wide the virtual stage where ideas spark and wisdom fills the page. From the UK to the land of maple trees, John and Mike bring clarity with ease. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. We're building meetings, webinars with might, helping you shine your message, taking flight. Whether you're new or you've done this before, Lord Zoom Live will help you do much more. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we grow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. From big events to breakout rooms with flair, we've got the tools and we're ready to share. Guest experts drop in, bringing gold each time, with insights and tricks to help you climb. Can't make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Thank you for joining us, we're glad you're here. Together we grow, it's loud and clear. On Zoom we connect, we learn, we glow. Welcome my friend, enjoy the show. And make it live, we've got you still. On YouTube and LinkedIn, we're giving that thrill. So tune in later or catch us next round. Either way, your success is where we're bound. Now take the spotlight, the stage is yours. Bring your message through virtual doors. Each week we gather, and now you know you're not alone, so let it flow. Thank you for joining us. Now go and shine. Share what you've learned. Your voice, your time. With Lord Zoom Live, your power will grow. It's time to build your own show.